Hello and welcome to episode 76 of This Week in Germany. We'll be bringing the world to Germany and Germany to the world with news for the week beginning the 15th of June 2015. My name's Daniel.
And my name's Rob. Each week we feature stories from the news, society, and culture in the English language. If you want to find out more, including ways to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, head over to our website, thisweekingermany.de.
And lots has happened this week, and we'll get to that in just a moment, but I'd like to start with this wonderful comment from Paul from Sydney, who left this review in Australian iTunes. He says, "For anyone interested in Germany, This Week in Germany is a must-have." Well, thank you very much, Paul, and I'd like to say to everyone that if you have something positive to say about This Week in Germany, please leave your reviews in iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. It helps us find more people, helps us to get more listeners into the podcast, and that keeps us very motivated for bringing you this podcast every single week.
Yeah, I love reading all those positive reviews about the show. It really makes me feel like people are really getting something out of the work that we're putting into it.
Yeah, definitely. And Rob, what should people do if they have a negative comment about This Week in Germany?
They should turn it into a positive comment because because the show is wonderful, and you may not just be listening to it correctly.
Yeah, you might not be listening to it correctly. You may actually have some kind of issue or some kind of problem. I advise you seek out a therapist. So, so rude. Yeah, lots has happened this week. Otherwise, we couldn't bring you a weekly podcast if nothing happened in Germany. So, Rob, what are we going to be talking about this week?
Last week, we talked about how the G7 was starting, and now that it is over, we can tell you what Chancellor Angela Merkel had talked about at this pretty big event.
Yeah, 200 million euros that event cost for 2 days. I hope she has something good to say, something interesting, something worthwhile.
Also on the show, Germany was meeting with the Prime Minister of Greece, and Chancellor Angela Merkel has said that she might consider a Greek exit from the EU.
Yeah, and there's a kind of like an odd power struggle at the top of German politics when it comes to the reaction to Greece. So Wolfgang Schäuble has one opinion, Angela Merkel has another. So what's going to happen? Well, we'll find out later in our News in Brief. Also, we've got a really cool destination Germany coming up later as well.
It is Weihenstephan Abbey, and I have to say that it's a pretty big place in Germany. You'll have to listen to it more to find out exactly why this place is so amazing.
Well, I think we can tease you a little bit and tell you it's the world's oldest brewery, and so it's a little bit special. So that's all coming up later. So if you like beer, hang around. If you don't like beer, what can I tell you?
Well, it's also a very it has a lot of rich history as well, besides just being a brewery. I mean, it's an old monastery as well.
And also we have some information on the Bundestag hacking that happened this week. Yes, the Bundestag was hacked, and there are some rumors that they may still be leaking data.
And this isn't for the first time either. It seems like it's becoming commonplace for the Bundestag to be hacked.
But first, our top story. On Friday, the Bundesrat voted in favour of gay marriage. While this doesn't make it legal in Germany, it does put pressure on the government to make a new law. Bodo Ramelow is the Minister-President of the state of Thuringia and winner of the most enjoyable politician's name. He's a member of the Left Party, and here's what he had to say.
Wenn es also Personenstandsfragen geht,
in questions of marital status, as lawmakers, we have the responsibility to end discrimination. And discrimination is where one form of partnership belongs to a second category, which is at a lower level, behind marriage.
Germany is known for being a liberal country already with a lot of rights for their citizens. What type of rights are being discussed specifically for same-sex couples?
Yeah, well, gay marriage is quite a big topic here, and it has been recently, especially after the referendum in Ireland, where they chose to legalise gay marriage. And some people here are a little bit confused as to why it hasn't already been legalised. Well, Germany is seen as like a progressive country with a tolerant attitude to gays, so there are many openly gay politicians and celebrities, and discrimination is punishable by law in the workplace, for example. Same-sex couples can't marry and they can't jointly adopt children. Instead of full marriage, the law has recognized civil partnerships since 2001.
Okay, what's been going on so far has been in the Bundesrat. What is the difference between the Bundesrat and the Bundestag?
Yeah, well, that's a crucial question as to the meaning of this resolution which they passed on Friday. In last week's episode, Sven Rudloff explained the workings of German politics in detail, so head over to last week's episode if you want to catch that. But basically, the Bundesrat is the kind of like the US Senate or the UK's House of Lords. The 16 states that make up the country of Germany are almost all controlled by left or centre-left parties. Bavaria is the big notable exception. And each of these are represented in the Bundesrat. And yeah, this resolution that they passed is not a new law, and I want to make that clear, but it does put pressure on the government.
So the Bundesrat is only law or proposals at the state level. How is this going to affect Germany as a whole?
Well, the Bundesrat votes on legislation which can affect the states. And in this case, they passed a resolution to put pressure on Angela Merkel's government. Now, she said so far that she does not expect to introduce a gay marriage law. Her Conservative Party is joined up with the CSU in Bavaria, and this party is even more conservative. They voted against the resolution on Friday, saying that same-sex marriage would erode the meaning of so-called traditional marriage. This is what Bavaria's representative Winfried Bausbach had to say.
Wo Grundwerte im Spiel sind, meine Damen und Herren,
where core values are at risk, politics must protect them. The institution of marriage is a value in itself. It is and remains the foundation for families in which children grow up with their birth parents.
in denen Kinder bei ihren leiblichen Eltern aufwachsen.
So what's the next step in the way this is going to work?
Yeah, that's the complicated thing, because at the moment we're seeing the Bundesrat saying that, yes, we want, the states of Germany, we want to bring in same-sex marriage, whilst the Bundestag also has to then make this happen. And so this resolution will require the government to release a statement, basically saying their opinion, where they're coming from, what their plans are. And a law is being developed in several from the several states in the committee stage. Okay, so it's not ready to be released as a law. So we'll see what happens with that. But the difference between a registered partnership and a marriage is not very big, but the symbolism of having exact equality in marriage is important for Germany's same-sex couples.
And now for this week's News in Brief. The G7 summit that took place at a castle in Bavaria has now come to an end. Many topics were brought to attention and discussed by the world's leaders, including Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel. When it was Chancellor Merkel's turn to present a final statement at the summit, she talked about issues such as climate change, women's rights, and what's happening in Russia. She made it very clear to the world's economic superpowers that they must stand together and strengthen sanctions against Russia. And by using this tactic, it will help resolve the situation in Ukraine. She went on to say that all must be ready to escalate to further strengthen the sanctions if necessary, and that the G7, which was the G8 before Russia was removed, strongly condemns Russia's actions of seizing Crimea. As for climate change, Merkel spoke about the rising temperatures. The G7 has now said that they will be raising $100 billion to combat global warming. At the end of Chancellor Merkel's talk, she brought up women's empowerment programs and how it wasn't only developing countries that had problems with women in the workforce. She said that more needed to be done in all areas to promote gender equality. This past week, a meeting was held with German and French leaders speaking with the Prime Minister of Greece, Alexis Tsipras, about the possibility of receiving additional bailout funds. They met late Wednesday night as time was drawing ever closer to the Greek loan default between the country and its creditors. The Greek president seemed confident when he spoke after leaving the meeting. He said that European leaders realize that they must offer a viable solution and a chance for Greece to return to growth. Merkel was hopeful about finding a compromise before the meeting, though the official German comment from the spokesperson of the government only said that the talks had been constructive. There seems to be a bit of a difference of opinion within the German government, as the finance minister, Wolfgang Schäuble, feels that there is no way out for Greece, and he is willing and ready to let Greece leave the EU. This may be causing some problems, as Chancellor Merkel is continuing to search for a solution where Greece can stay in the European Union. On Thursday, the 11th of June, the federal government has doubled the amount of funding it's giving to the state and local governments for refugees. This program is now receiving €1 billion annually for support. The new support will begin starting next year, 2016. The government said that they will continue to strengthen the system for asylum seekers and refugees in Germany, not just now, but in the long term as well. The minister-president of North Rhine-Westphalia was happy to say that they had made considerable progress on the issue when the meeting was over that day. Other than monetary support, the meeting discussed possible ways to speed up helping those new to Germany with the process of integrating and entering the job market. This is not the end of the discussion for refugee and asylum seeker funding. Another meeting will take place at the Refugee Summit next week. States are still very worried about the cost, as accommodation prices are very high. The states are demanding that they will need €5.6 billion to cover the almost 500,000 people that are expected to arrive. The Bach Festival, which pays tribute to the life and works of Johann Sebastian Bach, has opened this past week in the city of Leipzig. And if you have not gone yet, don't worry. It's still going on and will do so all week until the 21st of June. The Bachfest kicks off at the St. Nicholas Church, where he worked for 27 years, and under the festival motto, "So Glorious You Stand, Dear City," which was out of one of Bach's famous cantatas. During the festival, there will be over 100 Bach-inspired events throughout the city in over 30 different venues. And as Bach had spent much of his life in the city of Leipzig, most of the musical pieces will be ones that are written in or associated with the city. So go to their website, bachfestivalleipzig.de, to learn about the remaining events that will take place this week, and maybe a little bit more about the great man as well. An unfortunate tragedy took place this past week in an area near the town of Buchen. A man was walking alone in the woods around 5 a.m. in the morning when he was attacked and killed by a 34-year-old African elephant who went by the name of Baby. Baby had recently escaped from a nearby circus when it ran across a 65-year-old victim. The elephant has now been captured, and police are looking into how the elephant may have escaped and why it may have acted so aggressively towards the man. Something new has come to Germany. The first 2 cemeteries to open both for people and their pets has opened this past week. One in the city of Essen and the other in the city of Braubach. This is happy news to many pet owners who consider their furry friends part of the family and want to have their companions by their side forever. The head of the Cemetery Association expects demand for the space of the plots to be very high, as people have been increasingly asking for this service. Prices right now are about €1,300 to €1,800, with the opportunity to increase the size and make sure that no future pets might be left out. These 2 cemeteries have gotten a lot of praise from people on social media. A Facebook user wrote that he had already cremated 2 of his pets after they passed away, and now he'll have the option of taking them to his final resting place as well. The plots will be going on sale soon, and the German Cemetery Association already has plans to bring the Pet Owner Heaven project throughout the country. And that's the news in brief. Would you like to get more German news? Well, sign up for our bi-weekly newsletter. You can go to our website, www.thisweekingermany.de, and find where to sign up for it on the sidebar.
And now moving on to story 2. Spying has been a headache for the government for a while now. However, data leaks of a slightly different kind embarrassed Parliament this week.
Seems like something about spying has been in the news almost every week. Do you know what's going on now? Has been a new development?
It's really confusing, because, of course, we recently had the spy scandal where it was revealed that Germany had been working with the NSA to provide the Americans with information on France. But now it's not to do with spying from Germany, but rather someone has managed to hack into the Bundestag, that's the German parliament's computers, and yeah, the data has been leaked and we don't really know who's behind it. So it was first revealed that the Bundestag was the victim of hacking back in May. On Friday this week, the newspaper Die Welt revealed that the method used to gain entry by the hackers was a link sent out to staff, which was, email sent out to staff containing a link to damaging software. It's known as a Trojan. I don't know, do you know what a Trojan is? A Trojan,
or was it kind of like a phishing attempt as well?
I'm not sure. Maybe you could explain what those are.
Well, what a phishing attempt is that it's kind of like an email that gets sent out to everybody with not correct information, but it looks like the correct information. And so when you click on it, or you might then go to a site that looks like the site that you're intending to go to, but it's actually the person impersonating the site.
It might say something which looks like Bundestag, like bundestaginfo.de.
Exactly. And when you put in your username, password, then they have it.
So it could have been that, but I also read somewhere that it might have been a Trojan as well. I'm not sure exactly. But even the particularly interesting thing is that the parliamentarians in the Bundestag were not made aware of what had happened straight away. Now, it could be that the people in charge of the security of the computers at the Bundestag didn't know themselves what was happening. But even after they realized that there was a security breach, they didn't immediately tell the people whose information was being leaked. And an official at the parliament claimed that hackers had gained access to the network's administrator passwords, essentially giving the people who hacked in free rein over sensitive data on the system.
Ooh. Has there been any sort of official word on if this attack is going to continue to be a problem in the future?
Well, the president of the Bundestag is Norbert Lammert, and he basically, in his role, he is in charge of making sure that the processes of the Bundestag work smoothly, that the democratic process can go ahead, that the gears of democracy are allowed to flow, or whatever gears do. And he admitted that the attack on the system was massive, as he said in his words. He denied, though, that the media reports that suggested data was still leaking out of the system. The security of the Bundestag's network is being reassessed, and the new security measures could be expensive. It looks unlikely at this stage that the Parliament's 20,000 computers will need to be replaced, but even a software overhaul would be costly.
He did say something about that just because a network is as secure as it can be, it's never completely secure. So they're always having to play a catch-up game just to make sure that it is as secure as it can be, so that no one will be able to get into it.
Yes, but also several parliamentarians had mentioned in committees that they wanted a review of the Bundestag's computer security in order to make sure that it was up to scratch. And apparently, despite multiple requests, no report was ever made by the part of the parliament responsible. So there are definitely lessons to be learned from this.
And coming up right now is, Daniel, what is it?
Destination Germany, where we take you to some cool places in Germany, whether you like them or not.
Yes, but you will like them because I only choose the best of the best places in Germany. So I think you'll find it very interesting where we're going this week.
Yeah, of course. And this is the best feature apart from all of my features in the episode.
But better than his features is actually Destination Germany. And because of the cool places that we talk about, you can see some pictures on our website, thisweekingermany.de, and it'll give you even a better feel after you've listened to the segment of what this place actually looks like.
Definitely. And there are cool pictures of last week's at thisweekingermany.de, which was in Magdeburg. And it was the Millennium Tower, the Jahrtausendturm, as it's known in German. And we learned that it is the tallest wooden building in the whole of Germany. And it also has a super cool-looking museum on the inside. So you won't just be standing around reading at this museum, but you'll actually get to see how man has progressed in science and technology from the Stone Age to the present day. And you can walk all the way to the top of the tower as you learn about man's progress. And when you reach the top, you get a spectacular view of the Elbauernpark Gardens and all the surrounding area. That's pretty cool. And I'm wondering, Can this week's destination compare and compete with how great last week's was?
I would have to say that is a big yes. This week's destination is not something you'll want to miss out on. Even if you've visited this location before, you'll most likely not have forgotten it. We're going back down southeast to the state of Bavaria, just north of the great city of Munich. This week's destination is the Weihenstephan Abbey.
So we're going to an abbey. It's like we're going to a religious community run by nuns, or was it monks?
Well, an abbey could be run by either monks or nuns. In this case, it is, or rather was, run by monks.
What kind of monks were these? What kind of religious community was it?
These were Benedictine monks, which is an order that is aligned with the Roman Catholic Church. They are, or were, a very tranquil group. Yeah,
they're not going to be the kung fu fighting Buddhist monks from the films. So you're telling us that there's an abbey located outside the Bavarian state capital of Munich, but what's so great about this place? Why should we visit it?
Well, when you get to the Weihenstephan Abbey, it might not be exactly what you would expect. While it still has some characteristics of what you might picture when thinking of an abbey or old monastery, it looks much more modern now. It's like a mix between an abbey while also looking a bit industrial.
Industrial? Why is that?
Well, because it looks industrial now because it's actually a manufacturing plant and not an abbey anymore.
Okay, is it an abbey or is it not an abbey? Come on, you're just confusing me now, Rob.
It was an abbey. In fact, it's a really old abbey that was built around the year of 725, that long ago. And while it's an old abbey, it isn't the oldest. But the reason I want to tell you about it, it does have something special, both then and now.
And what is that special ingredient which makes this abbey so cool?
Well, when the monks came to this abbey, they also brought something with them that monks are kind of known for. The art of brewing.
Ah, I see. So they started brewing beer here, and that's the reason that it looks industrial, because they still brew beer there today.
That's right. I thought it was a very neat fact that in the beginning there was a farmer around this abbey who was obligated to give 10% of his crop, who was brewing hops, to the monastery, and they then turned this tithe into their beer.
Yeah, the old beer tax, sure. Because that's what Jesus wrote in the Bible. Hey, beer, you got to drink beer. How long did it last as a home for these monks before it became a brewery, specifically, just a brewery?
The monastery was there for over 1,000 years, but it did have a lot of hardships along the way. It was attacked and destroyed in battles. It actually burned down 4 times, was destroyed by plagues 3 times, hit by famines, and even suffered through a huge earthquake. But every time it was destroyed, they just kept on rebuilding it, and the beer kept on bubbling.
Cool. Yeah, beer can outlast anything. So after these hundreds and hundreds of years of history, why did the monks finally decide to leave?
After all that, it was due to a new secular law that was passed in the beginning of the 1800s that kicked out the monks and transferred all the property of the abbey to the state of Bavaria.
Poor guys.
Well, at least there is a silver lining that the beer never stopped.
And it's been a brewery ever since.
It has, but more than that, after the religion was stopped and the state turned it into a agricultural and brewing school for students, and it wasn't until 1921 where it's got its current official name, which is the Bavarian State Brewery Weihenstephan. And this gives it the right to use the Bavarian seal on its logo.
Sounds great. And I'd love to see a brewery with that much history. And of course, I know that you can taste some of the Weihenstephan brewery in, well, it's all over. You can get Weihenstephan beer everywhere today.
And on top of that, it claims to be the world's, not German, but world's oldest brewery that is still in production after all these years.
Very, very cool. And if you want to see this place and see what their beer looks like, go to our website, thisweekingermany.de, to check it out. And also, if you're of drinking age, maybe check your local shops or even the internet, and you can see if you can find a little tasty drink from this week's destination, Germany. But don't enjoy it too much, we have warned you. Next up, our German of the Week section, where we put the spotlight on a prominent person from this week's news, who could be a German citizen or even a foreigner who we deem an honorary German, who has had an effect, for better or worse, on German culture, society, or politics.
In this episode, we do not have one, but quite a few Germans of the week. This week, we take a look at the German women's national soccer team. They have done quite well in the past. In the World Cup, they won 2 championships and finished runner-up once as well. In the European Championship, they have done even better, having won 8 titles, and the last 6 were back-to-back. The team's current coach is Sylvia Neid. She has been the head coach of the national team for 10 years now, leading them to many championship wins as well as a bronze medal in the Olympics. She is still leading them today as they are currently playing the 2015 Women's World Cup games. Germany has won their first game against the Ivory Coast with an astounding 10-0 score. Their second game was on the 11th against Norway, and it was an intense back and forth with a great showing of both teams. In the end, the game was tied at 1-1. Their next and final game is coming up right now. On June 15th, Germany will play Thailand. Best of luck, Germany. We're rooting for you.
That was the German of the Week, and that brings us to the end of episode number 76. So if you want to fill the void of German news that exists in your life between episodes, if I can put it that way, then there are plenty of ways that you can get your German news fix during the week.
Yes, there are quite a few ways. One is you could go to our website, thisweekingermany.de, and besides having our episodes that we have each week, we also have a few other articles too. So check that out. Or you can go to social media like Facebook or Twitter, which we're getting quite a lot of followers on that. What are we up to now, Daniel?
Well, we've just reached 2,500 followers on Twitter, and we've just passed 1,600 likes on Facebook. So thank you very much for your support, and we have quite an interactive community, I'd say. So feel free to come on board, leave your comments and your questions, and give us your likes, and that means that more people get to experience This Week in Germany in more different ways. And so, yeah, we're very thankful for your support.
And I really like talking to the listeners, too, whenever someone's leaving comments, and I always try and make sure that I read all of those and reply to any that I can.
Yeah, that's very good of you, Rob. Yeah, no, it's really cool. Loads of people interacting with us on social media, so it's very, very nice of you. Thank you very much. Also, if you want to get the latest from Germany into your email inbox, then you can sign up for our newsletter. The little box to put in your email address is in the sidebar of our website, and we have loads of people signed up recently, which is all of a sudden, which is really cool. And yeah, it's difficult to find stuff to take out, as in not to put in the newsletter, because there's just so much cool stuff. So we have links in there to all of our best interviews, to all of our most interesting features, including articles from the website that you may have missed because they're not featured in the podcast. So yeah, loads of stuff. Sign up at thisweekingermany.de, and also on that very same website you can find our donate button as well. And thank you to everyone who donated last week. It's very, very kind of you. It helps us keep the website going, helps us with our server and domain costs and all this kind of stuff as well. So that's really, really helpful. Thank you very, very much. This Week in Germany is produced by me, Daniel Winter. It is written and presented by myself and Rob Bishop. I'm sure you're sick of hearing my voice now, so thank you very much for listening. We'll be back in 7 days with more of This Week in Germany.